Mr. Clerk, the time is 6:04. I'm going to call this Budget Committee meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Weiss. Councillor Weiss.
Through the chair, I have a Ward 1 resident who came forward, wanted to delegate and didn't sign up in advance. Is it possible we put a motion on the floor to have him speak at this?
Sure. We get we'll add a delegation, get a delegation. I need to waive two-thirds to waive procedural bylaw to allow for the delegation. One motion to just do it as part of the agenda. Okay. You get the name of the delegate?
Mr. Wehrenberg.
Okay. Thank you. Council, I need two-thirds on the approval of the agenda. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Delegations, we have one. It's been added. Mr. Klaus Wehrenberg. Klaus, if I can just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Klaus Wehrenberg. I live on Cedar Crescent. I'm here because I was here last Monday and listened to the presentations of the various department heads relative to what they intend to do next year and the 2 or 3 years after that. I was disappointed. I, as you know, am all in favor of active transportation and environmental things. I failed to see where any of the department heads had any solid suggestions as to what was going to be in their budget relative to either the environment or the active transportation issues in the town. You as a council made a resolution that we had an emergency in the environment, and forget the word that happens with me. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The other one was you passed a master plan for some of the active transportation that is now going to be incorporated in the active transportation master plan. The Trails Master Plan was passed in 2011. You have proceeded to have an abysmal sort of results of what was intended in that plan. There were a number of trails that should have gone in at the subdivision approval process, and you failed to support the master plan that you had passed. It was a council decision, but you're not implementing what you're passing, what you're proposing. And when I listened on Monday, I was faced with the same thing. We have one of the department heads proposing to add a second environment person. Well, I want to know what the first environment person has done, how he or she has performed her duties in terms of what was on the budget and how the budget was being followed. It's not very transparent, but I'm not convinced that a lot was done. I'm looking for heat pumps to go into town. we don't have either promotion for that nor implementation for that. It's left up to the developers to put in heat pumps. We are not really nailing down that this has to be done. We are not making progress, and we don't have a transparent way of communicating to the public as to what of the budget is being implemented, how you progressed on the various points of your budget. So I'm looking for you to tell me what in this budget and in the next 2 or 3 years you're proposing to do in the way of environmental improvement, reducing emissions in town, for instance, and active transportation. You all know that over 30% of our emissions originate from the vehicular traffic, and that we need to do things about this. But I don't see any real action so far. So when you progress with your environmental agenda and your active transportation agenda, the various department heads, please let me know where you are going with the budget. That is all I would like to say. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Klaus. Can I get a motion to receive? Councilor Reese, Councilor Gardner. Any questions for the delegate? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Move to items for consideration. First up, 6.1.1 Central York Fire Services. This is binder tab 14. Mr. Chief Ian Lang, welcome. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of council. I'm here as the Chief of Central York Fire Service to present to you the review of the budget request for Central York Fire Services and for the following year. Now you'll see I have some backup with me. I have Magic Mike from the town of Newmarket, the Director of Finance, and I have Jeremy Ingalls, our Deputy Chief, who is in charge of our budget process this year. So he is online and he'll present virtually. And then I'll be here if there's questions the deputy can't answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. Deputy Chief, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chief, and through you, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to be able to present this year's submission for the 2014 budget. I really want to thank Mike Mays, Andrea Tang, Anita Gibson, and other staff at Town of Newmarket for their assistance on putting this budget together. It was one of the more difficult ones to put together in the last couple of years, so there's been a lot of hard work go into it. Next slide, please. So our general process that we follow for budgeting with CYFS is that Newmarket Council sets the budget guidelines. Then the finance team works with CYFS management to develop our draft budget. That is then taken to JCC for review, and they then make their recommendations. So these first 3 steps have been completed. Obviously, now we're on step 4, presenting to the Aurora Council for comment on the budget, and then this will be sent on to Newmarket Council for the final approval. Next slide, please. To formulate our budget, this is based on a 10-year plan that both finance departments have helped put together and is heavily influenced by the existing master plan that was put into place in 2014. The next set of 10-year plan and our financial moving forward will be influenced by the current master plan that we're working on that will be submitted to councils for approval in 2024. Some of the pieces you want to look for in this budget, we've seen an increase to our asset replacement fund of about $36,000. This is just, again, to address some of the inflationary and price increases pressures that we've witnessed the last couple of years. Some of the other things we've done is deferring all new staff requests, and this was done until we can implement the new fire master plan, so we have a little clearer picture on what the growth is anticipated to be. We haven't highlighted any new additional revenues at the time of the budget process. although there is a report that we're going to JCC regarding a potentially new revenue stream for both communities. A highlight from it is also the 0.01% change in cost allocation. This results in a shift of about $3,100 to Aurora. And this is just based on a growth pattern that we've seen the last couple of years where Aurora is expanding a little bit faster than Newmarket. Next slide, please. So when we look at the operational budget and the base and growth that we've set based on that 10-year forecast that I mentioned, the original increase was going to be about $1.17 million. What we've done, as I mentioned, with the growth being removed until the new master plan can be adopted, we've removed that and deferred it until future budgets. So that takes us to a revised target of about $810,000, including the asset replacement fund increase. The keys to this are the wages and benefits that have been set out in the collective agreement. Our current agreement comes to an end on December 31st, and we'll be entering negotiations with the OPFFA local. So there will be some changes that we see to the collective agreement in 24 or 25. We've also started to look on some of the actual and projected spending trends. Anita and I spent a long time going over our historical averages and projecting out. And we also know that there's no additional revenues that we've highlighted for this year. The growth deferred was the 2.5 firefighters as well as a fire prevention officer that had been identified in a previous master plan. And again, that'll be deferred until the new master plan is adopted. Next slide, please. By deferring this growth, we do have some risk associated with that. What we've seen over the last couple of years is an increase in scheduled and unscheduled absenteeism. So this has to do with WSIB, long-term disability, sick call-out, vacation, lieu days, and an increase to maternity and paternity leave. What this results in is a shortfall of staffing, which forces us to go back to the collective agreement and remove apparatus from service based on the number of people in attendance for that day. What that does is it impacts us in two ways. First is response time. When an apparatus has been removed from an area, it potentially impacts the ability to respond into that area, as well as depth of response, just having the number of firefighters available to respond to various incident types throughout the community. With the fire prevention side of things, we've also seen high demands placed on this team based on changes from the community risk assessment, the Fire Protection and Prevention Act, firefighter certification, and the More Homes Faster Act. These have all placed pressures on the prevention team with additional tasks and workloads that have been placed on them. And they'll be addressed and named in the new master plan with a plan to help adopt ways to address these. Next slide, please. As we can see here with the budget analysis, we have a net expenditure of about $31,335,000. That's with the $810,000 growth, which equates to about 2.66%. As you can see, the breakdown between the two communities, Newmarket share is about 18 million, Aurora's share about 13 million, which equates to about a 2.64 and 2.68% increase respectively. This relates back to that 0.01% shift that I talked about earlier, just being based off of the growth of Aurora versus the growth of Newmarket. Next slide, please. When we begin to look at our wages and benefits, we see that this equates to about 85% of our overall budget. So we see an increase to salaries across the board, with management increasing by about $53,000. Regular wages to our firefighters, prevention staff, and other staff, about $325,000. We've increased overtime by about $15,000 to help address some of the shortfalls we've encountered the last couple of years. And then we also have about $189,000 increase to the payroll and benefits, and those are all associated with the collective agreement and just the progression through that. Next slide, please. Some of the highlights here from other operating lines that we've encountered. Janitorial supplies, this is a big increase. We're working with procurement right now to identify cost savings. We have our logistics administrator working on a project to help identify savings. What we've put forward though for 2024 is an increase to help address that, the addition of Station 4.4, as well as some price increases that we've absorbed from our current contract. So I'm hoping that in the next year we're able to identify some of those savings and roll them out. Miscellaneous, this is just an increase based on the events we hold in the stations and the increase that we're having public events again in the station. So this brings it back into line to pre-pandemic levels. The water, this is another large increase, and this is based on the shift from the training center in Newmarket to our new facility in Aurora, where we're billed for the water usage in the training. So again, this is a substantial increase just based on that training usage of water for pump ops training and things like that. Machine oil and fuel, we've increased it about 29-30%. And this is based on the price increases to fuel, as well as an increase in call volume. We saw a jump from 21 to 22 of about 800 calls. So we're playing a little bit of catch up from that increase. We're seeing that similar number from 22 to 23. So we've kind of reached a bit of a plateau the last couple of years. So again, like I said, just playing catch up from that call increase and the price increases. Conferences and seminars. This is a big one. We're rolling out a new records management system in the new year in conjunction with Richmond Hill. So we've added a little bit of budget there so that we can send staff for training on that new system. Public education. This is another big one. With the success of the program last summer, we had budgeted for 10,000 homes. We actually hit 15,000 homes between both communities with our public information and messaging. So we're just lining that up with the estimated costs with that increase. Vehicle maintenance and repairs. Again, this is kind of a twofold. There's been a gradual shop rate increase. The town of Newmarket is rolling out over a number of years to bring them more in line with comparable shop rates, as well as the inflation and cost increase pressures that we've seen over the last couple of years. I've used it as an example in a couple presentations when we look at the fire apparatus and equipment. While the general public might see a CPI or an inflation rate closer to 6 to 8%, in some cases we're seeing inflationary pressures of 25% plus on some of our specialized equipment and items. So it's been a challenge to manage the last few years. One thing I want to place on everybody's mind in the near future will be our radio dispatching services. So we have put an increase in of about $17,000 for this year. With the rollout of NG 911 over the next couple of years, we're going to need to watch these costs, and we may see some price increases based on those the new system coming into play. Next slide, please. When we begin to look at our capital budget requests that were submitted for 24, 25, and 26, we can see that we've got bunker gear. This is a big replacement for current firefighters' gear reaching their 10-year mark, which is the industry standard, as well as replacing or purchasing new gear for the firefighters who are coming on board, replacing retiring firefighters. We also have the similar line with the personal protective equipment replacement. This is for helmets, boots, gloves, things like that. The big ticket item with our radios, those have reached end of life, so we will be cycling those out, which is $900,000 to replace those. We're also, our Hurst hydraulics, our current hydraulics, about half of them in the department have reached end of life, and they will be replaced in the new year. We've also budgeted for a training fence that will go across the back of the training grounds. We've had issues with our provider for our vehicles that we use for vehicle extrication. Our current provider will not drop them off at the training site because they're unsecured. So unable to do the training on site at the back of the station, we'll need this fence up, as well as a storage building that will be going back there where it can be used for all-weather training. The traffic binding and control upgrades, this is kind of a dual project. It's to add the equipment for the Opticom system at Elise and Kaleida on Wellington. This is the new set of lights that is going in. as well as to add the Opticom systems, upgrade those systems on the trucks for the bus lines along Yonge and Davis. We also have a training pickup truck that will be replaced, and we've actually put out for bid for an electric. So our commitment to replace the majority of our passenger vehicles with electric by 2030. So we're well on our way with that. And then there's some truck equipment, just some ground monitors that will be mounted on the trucks. So replacements for those. The overhead doors one on the bottom here is one that we've identified through the building assessments, and they will be pushed off to 25 and 26. I've actually started meeting with Doug Bertrand from town of Aurora, as well as Andrea Cafisi from the town of Newmarket to address some of these items identified in the building assessments. And we'll be formulating a plan on how we're going to address these capital items as we move forward. Next slide, please. I'd just like to thank everyone, and that's the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Council, can I get a motion to receive? Councilor Gardner, Councilor Gilland, any comments or questions? Seeing none. You did good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I did have one, and I just wanted to ask because, I mean, obviously we all know that we are going through a regional review at the provincial level, and they're looking at the regions in general. And I'm just wondering how appropriate for us to actually approve any growth. I think we can look at it and we can anticipate it, but approve it before we have any finalization to what the province is going to look at doing, because there is a lot of chatter about the possibility of amalgamating the fire services in some of the regions. And so I would think that we're going to be watching that very carefully to see what does transpire through that review and at the standing committees. And then I think it's more appropriate for us to move forward once we have a full understanding of where we're at. So that's my only comment.
That's a good position, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I would suggest to you that we do have 7 crews in service now, and one of the items we've been discussing is a staffing model that upgrades from the current staffing model. Not about adding new crews or new stations, but some of the things the deputy spoke to about the higher number of absences. We have firefighters with parental leave gone for a year and a half. We have partners of those firefighters that or partners of persons having babies that are now taking 6 months parental leave. So that all impacts on us. And then we get into our regular absences, but we've had carried for several years 12 positions vacant because of WSIB and LTD and injuries of varying natures. And it makes staffing the 7 trucks very difficult. So I know when the master plan does come forward, there will be some discussion of that, but it'll be early in the new year before you're presented that. And then based on whatever's happening in the province, we'll see how it all works out.
Absolutely.
But I would like to say thanks to Rachel too for her help. She just kind of keeps everybody in line so that when we come here, it goes smooth, and good job. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Chief. Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Chief, Deputy Chief, Magic Mike, thank you. Council, next we have 6.1.2, the Aurora Historical Society Board. Presentation will be provided by former Mayor Daw and Alan Lambert. Welcome.
To follow. Good evening, everyone, Mayor, Council, and our community partners, and all the Aurora staff who help us on a daily and weekly basis. Pleasure to be with you tonight, both to reflect on 2023 and where we've been this last year, but also importantly to look forward. And I think we have certainly put an emphasis on looking forward as a board, and we'll continue to do that. With me tonight, most of our board are here, along with Jeff Daw and Kathleen Vahi, our curator manager. And Kathleen will take over after me to give you all the sort of facts and figures. But did want to just, if we could just turn to the first slide, just give you a little bit of background and interesting. Next slide, please. We are actually, as the AHS, celebrating our 60th year. So the AHS was born in 1963. We continue to function with our staff, our volunteers, our board, and certainly we continue to respect the town and our mandate, and again look forward to 2024. Just a reminder to everyone, I think we're all well aware, but this is our town's only National Historic Site. I call it our national treasure, and we do our best both inside the house as well as on the grounds to maintain that, maintain it in a way that our community and visitors find it a welcoming place. A place that they wanna come and enjoy a little bit of history, but also quite a bit of programming. And again, Kathleen will give you the details of that. But our mandate is truly to appreciate and look forward in terms of the heritage of Aurora. Just next slide, please. And again, just in terms of overall our mission statement, there's a number of really important pieces in here for us. It's preservation. And I know the last couple of years we've had a number of fairly large projects just in terms of that part of our mandate. But promotion of our culture, our heritage of the community, and really education and to enrich the lives of our town and again the visitors to our town for both this generation and certainly the new generations that are coming to Aurora with our growth, etc. So we continue to be a vital part of the town. We appreciate all the partnership of a number of community partners that we've held different events and whatnot with, but we certainly continue to work hard for you, for the town, and for our heritage. So I'll flip to Kathleen, who will give you some facts and figures for 23 and 20.
Not as tall as Al. Well, yes, thank you so much. This year, the AHS operations started to move closer to our pre-pandemic norms. We continue to fulfill our mission through exhibitions, programming, and outreach to engage the community. And here are some of the highlights. So our longstanding speaker series maintained a virtual and hybrid format with an upcoming event on November 29th, which I like to point out as a partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Association on the connection between mental health and museums. So anyone who's interested, come on out. We hosted heritage craft workshops, holiday themed events, and special events to engage a wide range of audiences. In the spring, we started our new youth mentorship program where we invited high school students into Hillary House to learn employability skills and more about the career options in the arts, culture, and heritage sector. We strengthened and grew our collaborations with our local partners, and we continue to offer education and curriculum connection programs for students. We also made good progress on our collections management projects, including the Godfrey collection, which Jeff will speak to later. We were represented at a number of outreach events, which are important opportunities for us to get out into the community to raise awareness for the AHS and Hillary House. We hosted fundraising events, including high teas and a whiskey tasting, and finally presented 2 exhibitions, one as part of the youth mentorship program, and then another traveling exhibition that's on display right now from the King Heritage and Cultural Center. So how did we do? The goals on the left were presented at the budget meeting in February of this year, and the achieve column on the right represents stats up to the end of October when this presentation was created. So we had planned for 35 programs and special events. We were actually able to implement 36 with 4 remaining in the year. We had a goal to present 3 exhibitions, and we offered 2 with more collaborative projects planned for 2024. We wanted to use our online presence for engagement. And again, we saw another very successful year of online engagements. Wanted to provide 3,000 hours in volunteer opportunities. So far, we've provided around 1,600 as of the end of October. We wanted to welcome 1,300 people to Hillary House, and we noted as of the end of October of 750, with noted several opportunities remaining in the year still. Wanted to educate community members through outreach, and we were very pleased to be able to go to 8 outreach events with over 800 people engaged this year, which is up from obviously previous years, and fund and execute critical restoration work. And we did work with Parks Canada this year to completely replace the historically significant fence along the Yonge Street side of our property. Next slide. Following up on questions from the February budget meeting, Council expressed interest in seeing stats comparing pre and post-COVID numbers. So this chart shows the number of groups and total people who have toured through Hillary House from May to September from 2018 to 2023. Generally, we have seen a steady increase post-COVID with some fluctuation, which we anticipated. We're pleased to see a strong rebound, especially in August and September of this year, which is partly the result of new programming, outreach, and extended weekend hours. Additionally, we are still engaged through our online presence, which brings in new audiences and therefore more community awareness. This slide shows our KPIs. So 2023 has been the first year with no COVID restrictions, which allowed us to provide more in-program and outreach opportunities. The number of people welcomed and engaged through outreach obviously shows a positive trend, while the number of people reached via virtual programs has decreased slightly because we didn't offer as many of those programs. Volunteer hours is lower than anticipated due to some challenges with engaging volunteers this year. And our membership shows a slight decline of only about 10. Finally, our online followers and engagements continue to be strong, demonstrating our audience is really resonating with the content we're putting out. Next. As a small volunteer-led nonprofit organization, we do continue to face some ongoing challenges, including fundraising, volunteer engagement, meeting the critical maintenance needs for the 161-year-old Hillary House, as well as funding those restoration projects and continuing with our grounds maintenance. And we'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the many organizations of Aurora and beyond and the importance of our partnerships. We're very fortunate to be able to consider these organizations as our partners, and we will continue to foster our partnerships while actively seeking new ones. And I will pass it over to Jeffrey Daw, who's our co-president and treasurer.
Thank you, Kathleen, and good evening, members of the committee. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm still getting used to being on this side of the table, but I'm getting more comfortable. I will try and keep it short. Our funding hasn't changed substantially over the last couple of years, with the exception of the Young Canada Works program. They funded the partial intern that we hired to clean up the Godfrey collection for us, and I'll address that a bit later. Next slide, please, Linda. So in keeping with requests from staff at our presentation this past year or earlier this year, and staff requests, we're now showing our audited returns for 2018, 19, 20, 21, and 22, and our projections for 23, 24, 25, and 26. And the bottom line that sticks out a bit, I'm going to be longer than a minute, sir. It sticks out very much like a sore thumb, is that our deficit for a 2-year period of 23 and 24 is going to be approximately $107,000. Followed by a slight surplus in 2025 and 26 combined. I do wish to point out that our cash reserves are such that we can cover this, but at the same time, our board is keenly aware that this is not a long-term sustainable position. 2 years ago, our board made the decision to increase our staff complement in an effort to drive community engagement, which ideally would result in increased revenue. And while there has indeed been an increase in activity, we have not yet seen any substantive increase in either membership or revenue. The board is monitoring this, and we'll be addressing this in our strategic planning session, which will happen early next year. You will note that there's been a slight revenue bump in 2025. The board has been working on a private donation, which we expect to come to fruition in 2025, if not a bit sooner.
Overall, like many other organizations, we have found fundraising to be a substantial challenge. We had planned a golf tournament earlier this year, but had to cancel due to insufficient participation. We did have a successful Scotch tasting, but it was not as successful as the first one and did not quite meet our expectations. And I should point out that my experience in the past few months, just watching some of the other organizations in this area, they're also having significant challenges in volunteers and fundraising. For example, I got an email from the Salvation Army as I volunteer with their kettle program. They've had to reduce not only the number of locations, but the number of shifts at the locations they currently have because they cannot get the volunteers to staff the kettle, which translates directly into a loss of revenue. So this is a widespread issue, and it's a concern that we have as the board, and we are actively trying to address it. We have attended fundraising seminars, and we're looking for ways to try and step that up. But it's not all gloom and doom, because you can't finish a presentation like this on a downside. You'll recall that over the past few years, Council has granted monies to support our storage costs with the Godfrey collection. This year, with the support of the town of Aurora and the Young Canada Works Building Careers in Heritage program, we moved the collection to Hillary House, and we hired a collections intern, Claire Smith, to diligently inventory it. This has been an important step in order to determine the proper disposition of the Godfrey collection. At the conclusion of the project, we will have a detailed report and plan with recommendations for the future of the collection. Claire has already made some pretty interesting finds, which I believe Kathleen will be addressing. And we again wish to thank Council and the Young Canada Works for their support in this project. Our curator manager, Kathleen, has been keeping her eye on the overall operations of the AHS while managing the staff. Our part-time administrator, Julie, keeps us on track with our paperwork and has successfully taken on Bell Canada in getting our costs reduced, which is no mean feat for those of you who've had that joy. Our programming and outreach coordinator, Solan, has been working diligently to increase community engagement and abroad, collaborating with the Aurora Public Library, with the Town of Aurora Community Services Department, and our local schools, among other. We are seeing greater increase in engagement. We're hoping that that drives more volunteers, more memberships. And finally, we do wish to thank our volunteers. Donna Lewis stepped up this year to help our planning our landscaping, and John and Marjorie Bear, who have contributed enormously to the upkeep of the grounds. And we obviously encourage everyone to come by and check out some of the work that's been done. Our board members who contribute with their time, talent, and their treasure, incredible success for us getting those people on the board. And last but not least, our sincere thanks to the town of Aurora for your continued support. And specifically, I would like to thank Ms. McDougall and Mr. Gertner, for their support in putting this budget together. And if there's any questions with respect to the budget, I will be happy to try and answer them, as long as they're not too difficult. Councillor Thompson, I'm looking to you.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to? We're not done?
We do have like a few more slides I can run.
Oh, yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry.
I thought you guys were done. Apologize.
So as you know, the maintenance and restoration of Hillary House is important to the AHS, and as such, this is our list of long-term priority projects. So I'm sorry, I'll go quick. Looking forward to 2024, the AHS plans to continue on the success of 2023. And here are our goals. So 30 programs, 2 exhibitions. We're hoping to bump up our volunteer engagement again to 3,000. We're having a goal of 1,300 visitors to Hillary House, and obviously continue to educate community members through our outreach. We will continue to lobby various levels of government for greater support of Hillary House. Like Jeff said, we are exploring new revenue and fundraising avenues, and we will continue to fund and execute comprehensive action plans for the critical restoration of Hillary House. I like to point out this screen. The quotes on this screen are just a few statements of feedback from the guests who that show positive impact of the AHS and Hillary House. I think it's important to share that at least half of our visitors come from out of town, and they often come to Aurora specifically to visit Hillary House. After they tour, they're eager to visit other Aurora attractions and restaurants, and they ask for recommendations of our staff. And I think this showcases not only does Hillary House help provide a sense of community and place by celebrating our collective heritage, but it's also a tourism draw. And people bring people in from around the GTA and the world to Aurora, where they spend their money, and they potentially become repeat visitors and even members of the community in the future. So next slide, and I will say thank you. And I'm sorry we went over.
Thank you. Also, can I get a motion to receive? Mission. Councilor Thompson, Councilor Gallo, comments, questions, Councilor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to first of all thank you and your board for all the hard work that you've done. I know it's not easy. I have no idea how not easy it is, but judging from your faces, it's a lot of work. With respect to the restoration, we do have a list here. What is next? What do you think it will cost?
Want to just go back to the, can you go back? So there's a number of things that we think are critical. We certainly have looked at, and we've had a feasibility study on what's called the summer kitchen. It's an area at the very back of the house. We have had a feasibility study. We've mulled it as a board. The problem we have is the number is just too high. And so what we know we need to do, and probably working with the town, is figure out perhaps another option or solution. So all of these things, rear summer kitchen, the veranda roof, we're talking in the tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. The veranda that we did a year or so ago, 2 years ago, was $80,000. And that was, a health and safety issue. It was all kinds of things that we needed to fix up. So what we've learned, certainly in the spirit of heritage restoration, is nothing is inexpensive. Whether it be from the feasibility studies to the heritage architects you need to put your specs together, to finding a qualified heritage contractor. And again, we're doing this in conjunction with the town. We're doing it in conjunction with the OHT. So again, nothing's easy, and it's all fairly expensive. When I look at some of the things, landscape, Councillor, is probably something that we've really tried to manage ourselves. And as anybody knows, landscaping projects can be hugely expensive. Jeff mentioned Donna Lewis from Garden Aurora. She has put in hundreds of hours, and we've been able to, even through Kathleen, identify landscape companies that will bring in mulch for free. So she's put in place an excellent remediation program that literally has cost us volunteer hours. So that's something that landscaping could have cost us $100,000. We did it all ourselves this year, and we've made some substantial progress. It's a long-term plan, but that's an example of something that is critical. But we've tried to be as economical as we possibly can. So,
Councillor?
Thank you. When I'm looking at the list, I'm looking at the foundation of the middle section. Would seem to me that would be of paramount importance.
Yeah, so we've had a number of studies done over the years. 2017, I think, was the substantive study by ERA architects who came in. They came in again a couple of years ago and basically said to us they don't see any critical deterioration. So that project alone would mean excavation of the foundation, even to sort of figure out how good or bad it is. But they certainly have looked at it a couple of times, and they basically said there hasn't been a deterioration in 5 years. So again, we keep that on our watch list, because you don't want a foundation of a very old building crumbling, but we keep a very close eye on that one. But again, that one, even to identify what could be wrong would be expensive.
Councillor?
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I believe ERA has been very kind to the Historical Society. I'm glad they're involved.
Yeah, and then they know our site as well as anybody, and certainly for them to be able to come back and reflect back on previous studies has been very helpful to us.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Councilor Reese.
Thank you. And I'm not sure who this should go to, but I'm looking at that line that has the grant revenue in it. Some pretty steady over the last 5 years. And since this is a national historic site, are there grants or other things that are not being done or could be done in order to work on the restoration of this facility?
Jeff?
Through you to whoever. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's a question that we ask ourselves as well. And Kathleen has been very good at getting grants. There are not that many grants out there to be had. As a matter of fact, with the Ontario government, last week they did their submissions on the 2024 budget. Part of what we requested is an increase. We get a grant from the CMOG Community Museum Operating Grant, which has not increased in over a decade. And I know that the library, who we're presenting soon, has the same issue with the grant that they've been receiving. So at least we would like to see those grants indexed. So that's one thing that we've requested. 2 years ago, we were very fortunate to receive a grant from the Koffler Foundation. But with respect to specific grants from someone like the OHT or Parks Canada, although Parks Canada did rebuild the fence along the front of Hillary House, getting grants from those is just, we try and get those and it just does not happen. That's a long-winded answer to say, sorry, we don't have a good answer.
Councilor?
Thanks. Good enough for me. Thank you.
Seeing none other, thank you very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 6.1.3 Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, Binder tab 15, Javed Khan and Brian Roberts. Welcome. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Town Council members, Town of Aurora staff, viewers on the Town of Aurora YouTube page, and all of our special guests with us tonight. And most importantly, the dedicated volunteers who are joining me tonight from the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. For those who may not know me, I'm Javed Khan, a 20-year resident of Aurora and currently the volunteer as the president and chair of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. Our organization is a tribute to the history and excellence of sports. Our mission is to recognize, share, and preserve the remarkable achievements of individuals who have brought honor to Aurora through their contributions to the world of sports and sports culture. Our vision is to be an inclusive and accessible resource for everyone interested in exploring and immersing themselves in the rich sports history and culture of Aurora. As we celebrate our organization's 10th anniversary in 2023, we extend heartfelt thanks to everyone who's contributed to our success over the past decade. This includes the Town of Aurora's past and present council, our past and present staff, our longstanding sponsors, our partners, our community partners, and certainly our local media partners. And most importantly, our dedicated volunteers who've come and gone and are currently with us, and also our close to 50 Hall of Famers. Your support has been invaluable. However, ladies and gentlemen, we have evolved as an organization. We've also recognized, most importantly, that the journey of athletes, coaches, and builders can be challenging and that it's not always rainbows and lollipops. We recognize that in recent years, society has shifted towards open conversations about mental health, and we've seen more and more stories exemplifying a movement toward breaking the stigma of encouraging open and safe conversations of hope and support. For each of us, myself included, who has encountered challenges, let us remember the transformative power of conversation and the strength that comes from being open and honest with one another. This is precisely why we've embraced the dialogue around mental health, striving to shatter the stigma across all generations. Together, as a group, we can foster a positive and open environment of these crucial conversations. I'd also like to take a moment and congratulate the 2023 class of inductees. For those who were in attendance, you know that in their own way, these individuals represented tales of adversity, failure, tough decisions, trailblazing, and courage, and were an inspiration to all. The late Lori Buckland, Jim Thompson, Charles Leeming, and the late Frank Pete Michelle were all welcome to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame on November the 2nd. We continue to encourage the Aurora community to put forward nominations for outstanding individuals, athletes, coaches, and builders whose positive impact has enriched our sports culture, reflecting the core values of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. For those who are interested, the class of the 2024 nominations will be accepted up until April 1 of 2024. We'd also like to congratulate Abby Lunny and Adam Doan, exceptional athletes and acknowledged as the 2023 Future Hall of Famers. Their performance on and off the ice and the rugby pitch are exceptional and excellent candidates to receive this wonderful honor. We extend our best wishes to Abby and Adam as they embark on their future endeavors at Nipissing University and the University of Victoria. In recent years, our commitment to enhancing brand awareness and contributing positively to our community has been unwavering. The success of our first annual Aurora Sports Hall of Fame Celebrity Golf Classic, orchestrated by our dedicated golf committee, which our chair is here tonight, Mike Smith, and his passionate volunteers, stands as a testament of our collective efforts. In its first year, this event attracted over 110 golfers, selling out sponsorship spots and selling out the entire event. A highlight of the day and evening was an unforgettable roundtable discussion on mental health, facilitated by the talented Jim Lang of 105.5 The Region. The emotional resonance of this conversation left an lasting impact and few dry eyes in the room. We are thrilled to announce the upcoming second annual event on June the 20th, 2024 at Pheasant Run Golf Club, and we extend a warm invitation to all members of council and the ladies and gentlemen who are with us tonight to join us. Together, let's continue to make a positive impact in our community and help reduce and eventually eliminate the stigma of mental health with all generations. As we planned our golf event, it became integral to infuse a purpose and a meaning in our cause. Following thoughtful discussions, and as noted just a few minutes ago, we agreed to allocate a portion of our proceeds to the Canadian Mental Health Association, York and South Simcoe. This decision aims to contribute to their ongoing initiatives in mental health education and support. Our positive impact within our community is evident, and some of the key highlights are as follows. We've continually been present consistently at the Aurora Farmers Market and Artisan Fair. We have engaged with hundreds and hundreds of patrons over a span of 3 months, spreading awareness of our cause, encouraging nominations, and discussing volunteer opportunities. We drew the attention of over 25,000 patrons at the Aurora Chamber of Commerce Street Festival. Those folks who remember Jake Cowden of Jake Cowden Racing showcased his racing car featuring our logo and attracting hundreds and hundreds of people to our booth. Our youth ambassador team organized a successful event at the Town of Aurora Volunteer Fair, engaging over 100 potential volunteers and signing up over 30 plus potential youth volunteers, helping us build our database to stay in touch with them. We continually pay tribute to our men and women in uniform at the Aurora Legion Remembrance Day ceremony with our 2023 inductees, Charles Leeming and Jim Thompson, who were also honored at the Aurora Tigers home opener. These and more showcase the ongoing impact of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame in our community. Growing social media channels and collaboration inquiries demonstrate increased understanding of our mission. Our nearly 30 volunteers and growing continue to contribute thousands of hours of worth of time at various events and can be equated to thousands and thousands of dollars. One notable achievement in our community involvement was the installation of our inaugural street banners proudly displayed in our downtown Yonge and Wellington streets. These banners featured our 2022 inductees alongside a selection of 4 other Hall of Famers who were randomly selected. This initiative generated significant attention on our social media platforms and videos, making it a successful debut. We are committed to building on this success and have plans to pursue further participation in the new street banner program. One of our other significant achievements was being named as finalists for the Not-for-Profit of the Year, awarded by the Aurora Chamber of Commerce, a tremendous honor among 90 candidates. A number of our volunteers and Hall of Famers proudly attended the event, recognizing and celebrating the accomplishments of our diverse businesses in our community. We'd like to all congratulate the nominees and the winners of this year's Business Excellence Celebration evening. I'm delighted to announce that our education programs, led by the remarkable efforts of our Education Committee, and our chair is here with us tonight, Kristen Desjardins, are getting back on track with several initiatives planned for 2024 and beyond. Some of the initiatives include the launch of the Heroes of the Hall comic book series, Volume 2, a new grade 11 sport history course, and we've invested in volleyball equipment that will be used for a sitting volleyball parasport program that is soon to come. However, the main purpose of our discussion is to review our 2024 Town of Aurora operating grant request totaling $31,725 and an additional $20,000 for the curatorial services grant. You have received two documents, one labeled Budget 2024 to 26 and the other labeled Budget Supplementary Schedule. I would like to direct your attention to the second document, which outlines a specific allocation of the $31,721 that the Town of Aurora operating grant. The Town of Aurora's investment has been instrumental in supporting the operations of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. We have distributed the funds across a variety of categories covering communication and public relations, community engagement and outreach, and administrative expenses. Furthermore, we have embarked on additional funds for our curatorial services grant. We can't express enough thanks and appreciation to Michelle Johnson and Jeremy Hood for their outstanding efforts in managing our artifacts, especially in the annual presentation of inductees. Their work has significantly enhanced our brand presence at the Stronach Aurora Recreational Complex, otherwise known as the Stark. The Town of Aurora's investment of $20,000 reflects a strong commitment to supporting the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, aiming to become one of the premier community halls of fame in our region and possibly the province. We appreciate the ongoing support and acknowledge that the investment has remained consistent over the years, subject to regular evaluation by the Town of Aurora staff. And finally, we're thrilled to announce that our 11th annual induction celebration evening will take place at the new Aurora Town Square on November 7, 2024. I extend an invitation to all who are in attendance and are on YouTube to please join us in celebrating the achievements of the class of 2024 inductees. Mark your calendars for an unforgettable evening of recognition and community spirit. On behalf of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, the volunteers who are with me tonight, I extend our sincere thanks to you, the past and the present members of the Town of Aurora Council and Town of Aurora staff for your unwavering support of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, as your dedication has been instrumental in our decade success. Here's to the continued and collaborative journey that we will partake in the partnership for many, many years to come.
Thank you, Javed. Council, can I get a motion to receive for information? Councilor Gardner, Councilor Kim, comments or questions? Councilor Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation, Javed. My question has to do with something I see as a discrepancy, and maybe it's just an error. You say in the presentation that you donated $3,500 to, I think it was Bell, or it wasn't really clear, and that doesn't matter. But in the statements, it says that there were $5,000 donated. So are the statements or the messages, the information here on your budget 2024 to 26, are those audited statements or unaudited statements?
Javed?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, let me just clarify. It was not Bell. It was the Canadian Association of Mental Health York and South Simcoe chapter that we donated proceeds, which were $3,500 that went directly to the organization through our golf committee. Trying to look at your $5,000. Where are you referring? Is that the 24?
Approved for 2023. You've got historical and approved for 2023, and you got $5,000, the second line from the bottom on expenses.
Which document are you referring to?
The financial document, the one you have there, the page isn't identified here, but where you have the budget and then you have the budget supplementary schedule.
Right.
Maybe you can put it up there.
So you're in the budget supplementary schedule,
No, I'm in the first one.
2024 to 26?
Yep.
Under 23?
Yeah, and it says Ashoff donation Celebrity Golf Classic. And it says $5,000, but in your presentation, it says
Yes. So
3,500.
correct. So that plan was to do a $5,000 donation. It was the actual was $3,500.
Okay.
Counselor.
But the $3,500 is not identified in the 2022 here. It's a blank. So is that
That is correct.
error?
The first annual was 2023. We didn't have an event in 2022. We didn't have a golf event in 2022.
Okay. So that just has to be a correction of some kind. Where is that income then? Is what I'm saying, I guess.
I'm sorry, which income are you referring to?
Well, you're saying your 2023, and I'm sorry, I just lost my. You put it up there.
Yep.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. It says 2022 historical. There was no golf tournament there, so you said that's great.
Correct.
And then approved for 2023, you have $5,000. So you're suggesting where is that $3,500 revenue then if it's not in 2022 or in 2023? It doesn't appear anywhere here. I'm just asking about where it would appear. Would it appear in some other line?
So I'm very confused through you, Mr. Mayor. The 2022, there is none because there was no golf event, correct? Okay.
Yep, I
So
understand that.
we projected in 2022, in 23, when we did finally launch the golf event,
right,
that it was projected to be $5,000. It was actually $3,500.
Okay, so let me ask you then about the statements. This isn't a statement. We have your statements from 2022. Have you gone to audited statements or no?
We have provided audited statements that were dated December 31, 2022.
This says it's just a notice to reader. I did not perform an audit engagement or review. This is Fawcett and Isaacs.
Yep.
In your 2022.
Yep.
So you did not do an audit on this.
This is our financial statements for the organization. We, as a board, do not and have not made a selection to do a full audited statement just for the budget impact that it has on the organization.
Great. So the answer is no. Maybe it's unfair to ask you this question, and maybe it's for your treasurer, but on the balance sheet at 2022, you had an operating reserve of $134,054, and it's split into two fund balances. One is reserved and one is unrestricted fund. Can you tell me the difference between the reserve fund and the unrestricted fund?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a direction that was taken by the previous regime who started the organization to do a reserve, and it was noted that when the reserve was created many, many years ago, we've maintained that reserve from that day forward until today. And that reserve, as you can tell, is a nice piece of reserve. The unrestricted funding, that's the operating cost, is anything that's regarding to our operating of our organization. If for some reason, like a pandemic were to happen again, that unrestricted fund is the operating funds that we would use to continue the organization's running of the organization.
Great.
Counselor.
Thank you. And in this year, I don't see anything where you have said that there is an increase or a decrease in funds outside of a statement that we received earlier that said that there may be a deficit even in this year. So when is your year end? Is it now?
No, year end is in through you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor. Sorry.
Yep. The year end is in December.
Counselor?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to the delegate. Do you have an idea of what your increase in your funds would be above the 134.54? Did you have a profitable year, and are you adding to that, or did you use anything out of that deficit?
Out of the reserve?
Out of the reserve, yeah.
No, we have not used we have not used a dollar out of the reserve, and that's a reflection on the fiscal responsibility and the great work that our volunteers do to maintain this organization without having to dip into any reserve whatsoever.
Counselor?
And the other question is, did you add to it? Is there any?
We have not added to it.
Okay.
To the reserve, we have not added.
Thank
Counselor?
you. That's all for me.
Okay, Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Javed, tonight.
Welcome.
Just to provide clarity on that question around the Charity Golf Classic. So the way I read the budget in front of me is that in 2023, you budgeted to earn $30,000 in revenues from the Charity Golf Classic, of which you were hoping
Correct.
to make a donation of $5,000.
Correct.
At the end of the day, you didn't reach your goal with respect to the donation, but you still, out of the revenues from the Charity Golf Tournament, provided $3,500. Is that
correct?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, there you are. I'm a little unclear. I know with things like the cultural center, there has to be a reserve in case there is a dissolution. The $100,000 you set up, it was just a number that was picked out by the people the originators of the Hall of Fame, that you should have a cushion of $100,000.
The dollar value back in the day was $75,000. That was a recommendation by, at that time, a collaboration of the town Aurora staff and the individuals that were running the organization at that time. It was a recommendation. So the organization took on the $75,000 as a reserve, and we've been keeping that consistent, and through inflation and as I indicated before, keeping it as is. It's been growing through the years. Part of that reserve that we have determined as an organization would also go regarding a capital reserve. We've talked about, as an organization, we've talked about keeping some reserve for education, and also keeping some reserve for event management, event planning in the future.
Counselor?
Thank you. To me, those would be restricted reserves set aside. So I'm wondering why you don't use your reserve, and when it's looking like you don't have much left, then you would come to the town of Aurora and ask for funding.
Yeah, as I said, it's a very good question through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gardner, this is an organization that's been very fiscally responsible. We continue to make every effort that we can to either find grant money, raise funds, to come up with events that are going to help not only our community outreach, but also is going to help in terms of raising revenue and funds for the organization. I feel strongly that the number of hours that our volunteers, including myself, that have put into this organization, there's no requirement for us to dip into a reserve unless we really, really, really need to. And to this date, for 10 years, we haven't even needed to even look at that. And we've been very, very, we've been very blessed to not be able to do that. And I don't think that's going to be a decision that we'd like to change if we don't have to touch any reserve.
Counselor?
And I'm not doubting that. And, you know, I'm appreciative and friendly, but I'm also looking out for the Aurora taxpayers. So hence my question about why not using money from the reserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Gallup?
Thank you, Javed, for presenting and all the work that you guys do.
Thank you.
I just got a quick question about the 2022. I did get a copy of your financial statements, and the financial statements don't necessarily correspond with what's on the screen in terms of historical 2022. And I'm just wondering, perhaps that they should correspond. The revenue on the financial statements are 94,000 and you have 64. The expenses are 91,000 and you have 101. The revenue is accurate, 2,900 on both cases, but they just don't line up. And I understand it's a budget, and going forward, 2023, we don't have financial statements, and those are projections. And going forward, 2024, 2025, and 2026, obviously their budgets are going forward. But I'm just curious to perhaps this sheet that's on the screen just wasn't updated to reflect what actually happened in the past.
Yeah, that could be an oversight. I know Brian's with me tonight, but certainly could be an oversight and something that Brian and I will talk about.
Counselor?
Okay. I didn't look at it in any detail to make any direct comparisons or if there's anything significant in the difference between the two, but I guess I'll take some time between now and budget just to review it and perhaps even reach out to understand
Sure.
The reason why they don't add up. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Gilliland?
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat anything else that was said. Is there a line item somewhere, maybe I've missed it, where it shows, I know you had a lot of sponsors this year for your event, I noticed in your program, and obviously at your golf tournament as well. Do you have a line item that shows how much revenue you had made from the sponsorship?
Travis?
Yes, so we've got the Celebrity Golf Classic in 2023. That's $30,000 right there. And then in terms of the induction celebration for this year, numbers are still fresh, but it's going to be, in terms of sponsorship, it's going to also be north of $30,000 for sponsorship. But those numbers are fresh.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm just looking here. So the Golf Classic, you raised $30,000 in sponsorship, or is that for the event and the fundraising separate? Or is the fundraising the sponsorship? I'm just a little confused by the two.
Yeah, that would be, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. That would be the Celebrity Golf Classic. That would be, if I'm correct, full revenue.
30,000, sorry. So 30,000 was the full revenue. And the
so just to be clear, that's a combination of sponsorship and the fees.
Counselor?
I see. Okay. And the fundraising part was specifically what you had raised was that through the golf as well?
That would be through our induction celebration silent auction. That would be sponsorship specifically for that event, for the induction celebration evening.
Counselor?
Okay. I think that clarifies it. So there's some sponsorship as well within the fundraising, as well as the celebrity. So it's kind of combined within that same bucket.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? See none. Javid, thank you very much for coming this evening. We obviously appreciate and thank everything that the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame does. As you mentioned, we're probably one of the best, and I think I've mentioned it a couple of times, probably in the entire GTHA. And we appreciate all the work that all the volunteers do for this organization and all the organizations that partner with the town of Aurora. So thank you very much for coming this evening. Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, we have 6.1.4, the Aurora Public Library. We have Mr. Bruce Gorman and Chair Adam Mobbs. Welcome.
Good evening, Budget Committee. My name is Adam Mobbs, and I'm honored to be the chair of the Aurora Public Library. I'm pleased to be here today and this evening to speak to you about a 3-year operating budget and also highlight accomplishments from 2023. This past year has been yet another exceptional year for the Aurora Public Library. Some highlights include we returned to our regular Sundays hours of operation. Our performance indicators are returning to their pre-pandemic year-over-year levels. We continue to collaborate and look forward to the completion, opening, and ultimate success of the Aurora Town Square project. I did want to note Aurora Public Library staff have worked closely with town staff to present a responsible budget that allows us to continue to provide innovative programs, spaces, and services that Aurora residents have come to expect, all in a financially responsible manner. The Aurora Public Library Board holds our fiduciary responsibility to the community in the highest regard. Through our Finance Committee and ultimately the board, I believe we have provided appropriate oversight during all stages of the budget process. We look forward to yet another great year. I'm pleased to hand over the presentation to our CEO, Bruce Gorman, to do all the heavy lifting and present the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, Mr. Mayor. Seems like I was just here a month or so ago. Happy to be back. Happy to be talking about Aurora Public Library. As you know, I love libraries, and the evolution of libraries just while I've been in this business has been pretty remarkable. So the context of the budget tonight is I'm going to talk about the importance of the money that you invest in Aurora Public Library and all the things that we do because of that. And then I'm going to show you some pretty interesting numbers towards the end of the presentation. So Aurora Public Library, you know, we're community led, right? Which is really important. We listen to the community and we do what the community wants. We're a reflection of the community. This first slide you see up here is just gives an indication of what we do. We were at Chamber of Commerce month or two ago, no, actually 3 or 4 months ago. I actually toured them around Town Square on that evening. Lots of events that span one from one end of the spectrum to the other of interest to everybody. Food for the Future, as an example, regarding community-based indoor agriculture, our walking tours with the Historic Society here tonight. And I mentioned this when I was here last, this college and university fair that we had, 40 universities here. That evening, there was probably 2,000 people in the Aurora Public Library in all areas of our side of Town Square, universities represented, and all of the great young people here. But what a great place for them to come. And this is where they wanted to come. So we are the place of possibilities. Oh, I'm doing it. Sorry. There we go. We are the place of possibilities. Sorry. One of our strategic directions, our pillars, that's what we refer to it as. We continue to reach, hang on a second. Sorry. We continue to align our strategic plans with other organizations and you included. And I'm going to show you a couple of the great events that we have in this place of possibilities. Our gospel music through the Canadian perspective with Professor Karen Burke. Teens hanging out in the library. I've talked a lot about teens in the library. This little group of young people last year during our New Year celebrations, the Aurora Sonic Bees. More places of possibilities, the things that go on in Aurora Public Library, York Chamber Ensemble, the newcomers meeting. So last Friday was our most recent one. We had 55 people, first time offered in Mandarin and Farsi, and the teens studying during exam week. So we had every square inch of that library full of tables. And that week during exam week, we had 8,000 young people in the library studying. On to programming. Now I'm doing it. So we have in-person programming. What you're looking at there is a Diwali Festival of Lights. The next slide, a lot of our regular programming, our daily drop-in story times, our March break activities, drive-in movie with those little cardboard movie boxes, our Princess and Dragon Party, down in the lower corner there, and our slime party. So these are the kind of things I'm going over, things that occur in public libraries, but there's really not many other places where these things occur on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that bring this community together. In-person programming further. Sound of Reggae, I was at that a few weekends ago. It was just a lovely afternoon of great reggae music. Birth totems related to astrology in honor of Truth and Reconciliation Day. We had Indigenous fashions, which is unique to me. I hadn't seen Indigenous fashions like I did at that event. And then we had a presentation on Aurora in the 1920s with historian Jacqueline Stewart. Our virtual program, so ever since the pandemic, that this is something that we do now as part of our regular programming. It allows us to, bring people in that wouldn't normally necessarily get to come to our public library, or maybe it's far distance. We've had authors and presenters from Ontario, from different parts of Ontario and Toronto. A couple of the events that you're looking at here on our virtual program slide, letters of Martha Gellhorn, who was a war correspondent, indoor agriculture, food for the future, native plants, a discussion on native plants by the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, and then a conversation with a street nurse, Kathy Crow, who advocates for the homeless. And I was at that event, and it was a remarkable event. She's a remarkable person. Our creative studio, I've said this on numerous occasions, our creative studio is like no other library has that I've seen in and around Ontario. It's a place where creativity of all kinds can exist. I've told you about it many times before, from Cricut machines and laser cutters, and we're just adding the most recent VR to the space. We've also added another dedicated person there. So you can come to that space and create and hang out with people and explore new relationships. You're doing it for me. Thank you. I'll just let you do it. So the next slide is just, it's not one of our KPIs, but it soon will be, and it's Creative Studio numbers. Average, that's September 22 to August 23, 320 people a month, with the summertime reaching peak numbers of 819. So it's taken off. It's a really lovely space. So you should all come over and take a quick look sometime and explore what it has to offer. Community partnerships, some of them are here tonight with me, but we thrive on community partnerships, including CRA as an example for income tax assistance, Canadian Centre for Housing Rights, PFLAG. So we had our drag queen story time in the summer, and at that time, maybe still, it's contentious in communities, and I really was so proud of Aurorans on that occasion, on that Saturday morning. There was one or two people that were protesting across the street, but it went lovely. A lot of the councillors were here and had a great time, and it was exactly what it should have been. But it was in the place where it should have been too, which is a public library, Aurora Public Library specifically. Our KPIs. So Adam mentioned that we're on track to return to pre-pandemic numbers. So I'll just give you a few of them there. Programs year to date, up 29% and exceeding the 2019 pre-pandemic numbers. That's a picture of a magic story as part of I think it was the summer reading, Magic Act. Next was our Games Day and indicators there. Program attendance up to 24,221 year to date September, which is a 48% increase 2022 over 2023. Next slide is about our CERC. Our CERC is coming back too as well, circling over 400,000 in 2023, 9% increase. We have these online services like Overdrive, Canopy, a press reader that people use every day in their homes. It's really an extension. It's almost like another branch for us. Used all the time. And in-person visits. So in-person visits were 164 year to date. So my projection for 2023 is going to be 230,000 people. Our high ever was in the 250,000 range. So next year we will exceed that. And as I said before the pandemic, on our way to 300,000 visits on a yearly basis. And I've said this on numerous occasions, sky's the limits after that. And, our partnership with Town Square will be a mutually beneficial relationship in where we will bring people to the Town Square for them to visit Culture Center and other town activities and vice versa as well. Our social media continues to move upward, even with some of the strange things that went on with Twitter and X and some of the government regulations, but we continue to increase year over year, 26%. I want to talk just about a couple other quick things here. I usually like to do a survey of what's out there in the media, and I did such a survey, and I'm just going to highlight loneliness, which is interesting about libraries, and the money that you invest in our public library helps people with loneliness. So loneliness is a big deal. 3 articles here: paying more attention to health and social benefits of libraries is overdue. From Bloomberg, public libraries offer a space to reconnect and unite a lonely, divided world. Last week on CTV News, CTV Toronto News, a report was done by the Toronto Foundation. 37% of people are lonely 3 to 4 times per week. 44% of high school students frequently feel lonely, and people feel like they don't belong. That was the outcomes of the study. But libraries, it's been for the longest time, libraries are an antidote for loneliness. People come to libraries for a variety of reasons. One of them is to combat loneliness. If only to be in a place where other people are. You might not necessarily know people, but you're there. And if you want to take in a program, something of the like, then make new friends, then even better. But I think that's a powerful statement about what libraries can do outside of what people normally think of libraries. So our budget pressures, cost of living is always similar to the town. Non-union salary alignment, which we're in the midst of correcting that right now, bringing pay equity in line with the town, and as well reviewing compensation for some of our non-union employees. We have 2 QP units, and we'll be bargaining in 2024 with one of them. And then we're trying to replenish our reserves as we have been doing. So that's a pressure. Over the 5 years and a bit that I've been here, I thought it was important to also recognize that our workforce is smaller. We have 1.5 less FTEs than we had 5 years ago. And we have deployed every business process improvement and cost reduction strategy that I have in my proverbial toolbox. I have a few more that I can do. And we've always worked with the town, and in particular worked in the town on mutually efficient opportunities, one of which includes Town Square, which myself and the CAO have worked on. So we're doing everything we can. And I would suggest if you talk to the town staff, Jason, that they would agree that we do our best to be as efficient as we can and save money and provide the best service to the public. For the $63 and change that taxpayers pay for the great use of our services, our value calculator on our website, if you go on there and you put a few things in, you'll easily exceed $63 in one outing. So, I mean, I think for you guys, that money invested in us is really an outstanding opportunity to invest in the community and some of the things I've just mentioned. So our operating budget, the line of most interest to you, the municipal request. Originally, we were looking for 3 across the board after we deliberated amongst ourselves at the library. And 3 was what we got in 2023. But we understand, number one, we're financially responsible, but the times are different now for sure. We understand that. And we're happy to tighten our belts as much as we can. I think we are, in particular, in 2024, it's going to be a tighter year, but we will make it. But it is going to be a tighter year. And then the 2025 and 2026 at 2%. So I'm comfortable providing the same or better level of service that we can. But I do think that's a responsible fashion and a responsible ask, given that we started at 3 across the board. So I hope that request is something that you find palatable and that you find is a pretty remarkable investment in this great town of Aurora. Couple quick comments here. I'll just read 1 or 2 of them. We wanted to thank you for your movie, Inconvenient Indian, to mark Truth and Reconciliation Day. My family watched it and had a great discussion afterwards. Just one of countless comments we get from the public. The other one only because I don't understand it exactly. The last one is from George Elliott Clark, who was the Poet Laureate of Canada. Just wanted to say a formal thanks for yet another marvelous interaction with APL, the apple of Aurora's Dawn Golden Eyes. I don't know what Dawn Golden Eyes mean, but he's a poet, so it means something important, I'm sure. And lastly, I wanted to mention this report that was just released by the Canadian Urban Institute. It's really a respectable think tank based in Toronto, cared about urban issues. So just let me read the from the report here, just 1 second. The report highlights how important investment in public libraries is and how they have served as cornerstones in our lives for decades, functioning as hubs for learning, culture, and community engagement, offering access to a wide range of resources, all within a safe and an inclusive space for everyone. So one of the outcomes of this study, one of the research they did, was the economic impact. And libraries have an important economic impact in communities wherever they happen to be. So I'm just going to quickly read just a short line here. Canadian urban libraries, and I would consider Aurora Public Library an urban library. I can't find anything to the contrary, so I will consider it an urban library. Urban libraries in Canada create 2.1 billion in community economic impact on just over 300 million in costs. The overall return is nearly $6 for every $1 spent on public libraries. Much of this is driven by our collections, but as well by the programs and services that we offer. So according to this report, the economic impact of Aurora Public Library is $24 million. If one wanted to suggest that we weren't urban, often in Canada, they suggest libraries of serving over 100,000 are urban libraries, even if you took the percentage of our population down, given that we have a 64.5 population, even that equates to a $15.5 million economic impact right here in Aurora. And that shouldn't be held lightly. So the story I've told you is all about why this 4 million or so that you're providing to the public library, why it's the deal of a lifetime for you guys, and it's an investment in this community for now and for generations to come that will reap great rewards. And I'm so excited to be part of libraries. And as I leave you, I'm going to read this last line from this report. Libraries are essential to Canada's value proposition of an inclusive and prosperous country. They are the heart of every community, open to everyone, providing connections and experiences essential to our economic opportunities, equity, and democracy. They are essential to the social cohesion and healthy functioning of modern life. And I love working at libraries, and we hope that you support us for these upcoming years. And we look forward to doing continued great work and continuing to grow as we've grown out of the pandemic in particular. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bruce. Council, can I get a motion to receive? Councilor Weiss, second. Councilor Kim. Councilor Gallo?
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. None of that is as a surprise to me because I sit on the board. And just to your last point, I don't have any questions, just a comment. To your last point on investing in libraries, I don't think it's only the investment in libraries that's important, because I'm sure there's libraries out there that municipalities and cities invest in that are not necessarily successful. That's not the case here, from my experience being on the board for 2 terms. The investment in this library, and I think a large part of its success is due to yourself and the staff that's there. They are truly fantastic, and they make that place such a vibrant, welcoming, exciting place to be. And anyone who's visited and seen, as you mentioned, the teams that are there, and I come more often than I used to and just browse around. I think it's amazing. And I just want to thank you as a counselor, as a board member, and I'm sure the community also thanks you and the entire team.
We have an amazing team for sure.
Thank you, Councilor Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to parrot what Councilor Gallo said. In full disclosure, I'm on your board as well. And it's been one of those exceptional experiences. I come from a background where a library was a quiet place and you were told to be quiet. And it wasn't really all that much fun, but I go into the library now and I see those teenagers that were so concerned about milling about, being involved in their academics, also socially when they maybe don't have any other place to go. It's totally inclusive and diverse. it's the best part of Aurora in the heart of Aurora. So I want to thank you and the staff also for doing the work that you do. You're not only expert at what you do, but you're courageous at what you do. And that courage is important in order to move the library forward and to really have a tremendous impact on the community. So I want to thank you and the staff for the work that you do every day.
I'll pass it along. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you for being here, Bruce, and members of the board as well. That study certainly sparked a number of articles in the paper. Recently, I read one from the Globe and Mail that certainly echoed a lot of the points that we're talking about there and the benefits of libraries. And I just like the quote that the story ended off on. And so I thought I would share that once again, where it said that the author, R. David Lang, said it well. Bad libraries build collections. Good libraries build services. Great libraries build communities. I've had the good fortune to be involved in the library since I sat on the board in 2006, and we certainly have a great library, and it's been instrumental in the growth of our community. So thank you for all the work you and your team have done over the last number of years, and those that have gone before you as well.
If I had more time, I would have included that line in my presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we certainly do have a wonderful library. And as was mentioned, the staff is terrific. Special nod to Ms. Mandelkorn. Could you tell me what your capital reserve is at the moment?
What the balance of the reserve is? Jason might know. I think it's around 1.2 million. I'm going to put these guys to work.
The question doesn't have to be answered now.
I believe it's around $1 million, but we can certainly get that for you.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Oh, I'm done.
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Bruce, for delegating and all the board members who are here today. And it's a pretty remarkable stat in terms of being able to do number of services that you're producing with 1.5 fewer FTE. So that's pretty remarkable in this day and age. So appreciate you sharing that with us. Something interesting caught my eye on the APL website. And I know a few years ago, interlibrary loans was a point of discussion at the board when I was on. And I recall Aurora didn't reciprocate on one side. I forget whether that's accurate or not, but I'm just curious about the interlibrary loan numbers. Is that getting any traction? Is that being used at all?
They're 50-50 in terms of give and take. And it's not like it used to be. The ability for people to get information in other sources provides less use of that service. But I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can certainly get them for you. Yeah. But the give and take is more 50-50.
Okay, great. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, and just offline, if you can just email me what the cost would be. I'm just kind of curious as to what the actual cost to, if someone orders a library material from Vaughan or somewhere else, what that cost might be other than just courier costs. I know there was a trend the last few years towards challenging some of the large publishers on ebooks. Can you give us any updates as to whether there's been any traction on reducing those costs?
Have their costs? Yeah, through the mayor. No, the costs have not come down at all. No, unfortunately, we've advocated as much as we can through advocacy groups that libraries have in Ontario and far behind. We've come to accept that the prices of electronic material is very high, and they're not coming down. The publishers they wield a lot of power, and they haven't really dropped prices at all.
Councillor.
So that's part of our narrative related to our collection then and what we offer.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Oh, that's okay. So to the previous question, 786,000.
786,000
is the balance of our capital reserve. Nice going. Thank you. Sorry.
Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And lastly, through you, I recall for many years, library memberships were trending down, and then one year library card memberships increased. How has that been trending since or through COVID?
Less good, for sure. Yeah, they've trended down for sure. And we've done other things. We don't have fines now, so people combine their accounts in different ways. So that's a number that I was really thrilled when I was here talking about big increases numbers of years ago. That has declined for sure. We're decreasing. But that is an area that I'm focused on bringing that back, right? And we have, like I said, done different things, like we don't have fines anymore, so that people use one card more than like family cards rather than each individual getting cards. So, but working on that, and it bothers me, to be perfectly honest. I want to get that back. Right.
Okay.
But now with additional traffic into the library, now's the opportunity, and we continue to do that in our outreach as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. Bruce, thank you very much for coming this evening, as well as board members. Adam, thank you very much for coming as board chair. We've heard libraries are the best parts of Aurora, and I don't think anyone could disagree. As we heard tonight, not only we have a lot of bests in the town of Aurora. I believe is probably the best Hall of Fame. We have best library, best cultural center, which we'll hear from a couple of seconds. And I think that's what has brought us to make probably one of the most significant investments in the area. And I think that we're going to have the best town square and probably in York region, if not the GTHA. So we thank you for all the work that you and the board do. And we look forward to the future years.
We are excited to bring town square to life as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. Next, Council 6.1.5, Aurora Cultural Center Board, presentation by John Defer, President, Suzanne Haynes, Executive Director, and Michelle Lockey, Treasurer. Welcome. John, the floor is yours.
Well, Mayor Maracus and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to be here tonight and to engage in our ongoing, both positive and productive conversations that we've had over the last several months. I want to thank you in particular for your continued support of the work that we do at the Aurora Cultural Center. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank the people that are assigned to working with us at the Aurora Town Square project, town staff who have contributed so much time and expertise into working with our executive director to continue to move that project forward in a very, very positive manner. I also want to thank our board members who are here this evening, both virtually and in person at our meeting, and also to the many guests that are here this evening. My name is John DeFavre, and I am very privileged to be serving currently as the president of the Aurora Cultural Center and working with a very dedicated, talented, and committed board of directors and an absolutely fantastic staff. This evening, I would just like to point out to you that our board over the course of the last year have been involved in 4 significant things. First is to establish a strong understanding and partnership with the Aurora Town Square project. Secondly, we continue to gain comprehensive feedback from the community on their artistic interests and programming needs for us as we look forward to occupying our space at the Aurora Town Square. We've also assembled a very strong board with very diverse skills, very, very committed to promoting culture in our town. And also, as we all know, thankfully, we are emerging out of our pandemic era, and we look forward to rebuilding and emerging even stronger as a result of that. I'd now like to introduce to you Suzanne Haynes, that many of you know, to present our 2023 year-to-date programming. And again, just a reminder that we are emerging from the pandemic era. Suzanne?
Thank you so much. Mayor, councilors, town staff, and guests, welcome to our presentation. Today, we're going to go briefly through our profile and programs, and I'll present our 2023 KPIs known to date and move into budgets for our future programming for the community. Our mission, vision, and core values remain the same through our 2022-2023 strategic plan. And as John mentioned, our programming is now back to pre-pandemic levels for the first time. Zipping through to the 2023 programming. We're going to go fast. I'll try to speak slowly though. Our gallery exhibits run all year round with in-person installation breaks in between, but our online gallery remains for the public to view, and that's going to continue into the future. We're so grateful to have the temporary home at Aurora Town Hall here, a space prepared as a professional gallery, which has been coming into its own. Each exhibit features educational art bites that are online in addition to live artist receptions and special events. The in-person gallery visits are only tracked on Saturdays when our staff are in, so it's not reflective of the number of people that visit Town Hall. We know, though, through anecdotal feedback that the gallery is enjoyed by Town Hall staff and through visitors to the second floor, purposely coming to enjoy the exhibit. Our online gallery numbers are accurate to those who view the gallery program through our website. Our performing arts program has multiple series. The popular music programming shifted in 2023 to include support acts with headliners. This move creates better synergies for the emerging talent to make connections with established artists. We have 2 more adult concerts coming up in the series. Our classical series is curated by award-winning artists and producers Bonnie and Norbert Kraft, and our last classical concert took place last Thursday. Our family series has been sold out, has seen most of them sold out shows, and our final show is in December with Arico. The Magic Carpet is for our youngest audience, 18-month plus and their families. The shows are sold out to a smaller audience, having nonverbal, very colorful, musical, and movement-based activities to draw in the senses. We had a number of special events this year with the Aurora Pops Up reunion on Family Day, March break programming, and an in-depth conversation with Dezunge on one of the 7 grandfather teachings as part of a larger gallery activation across southwestern Ontario. We joined the Multicultural Festival with artist workshops, hosted Culture Days activities, and attended newcomer events, with more activities that happened in the last quarter that you'll see in our annual report. Our events are now back up and running. We saw slower attendance early in the year, growing to sold-out shows later in the year. And these statistics are up until the end of September. Our education program runs in one room while we're off-site, away from 22 Church Street in the Aurora Town Square. We continue to fit as much as possible into that space. Kaleidoscope in the Schools ran in January through June and is back in schools in York Region this fall. These statistics are only for earlier in the year. Overall, we see a significant participation across our education programs. We are no longer offering regular virtual programs as our community has told us that they prefer to be in person when building art. Our volunteer program continues to be robust. As events and activities opened up, volunteers joined us again. We no longer see the hesitation we saw in the early half of the year, and we're back to recruiting to fill volunteer opportunities for both youth and adults. Now on to our statistics as reported as part of our provision of cultural services agreement with the town. We start with community participation. You can see the programs continue to grow and draw on our community. Included in the other in 2020 are participants that responded to our digital programming early in the pandemic that was about overall creativity and not related to a specific program. Our program revenues also continue to return as we move back to regular programming. Please note that these slides will report our figures up to August 31st, 2023, as that's the last statement approved by the Aurora Cultural Centre Board of Directors. Final figures will be available in our annual report. This slide is not part of our regular KPIs, but it shows where we generate highest earned revenue in our programs. Please remember that as a not-for-profit charitable organization, we're eligible for grants, sponsorships, and donations that help to cover the costs and enable other programs to be offered in the community, like the free gallery programming in our public gallery. and our breakdown of program and administrative expenses for 2023 projected to the year end. We report on our ability to generate alternate revenue sources, leveraging the contribution from the town to generate earned revenue and revenue from other sources like grants, sponsorships, and donations. This leveraging enables a significant amount of programming for our community at a very high standard. And here's our financial summary for 2023 up until August. Final numbers will be reported in our audited statements and our annual report. The projected expenses for the Aurora Town Square displacement costs you'll see on this slide have subsequently been updated. The update was missed before publishing this slide, but you'll see the accurate figure in just a moment. And there it is. In the 2023 approval of the budget, our displacement costs were approved at just over $175,000. This projected figure is updated and accurate and is an in and out on our financials, meaning that we only charge what is actually spent. In any case, we're expecting the actuals to be lower than the budgeted amount as we have each year. These final KPIs will be reported in our annual report at the conclusion of the year. And now on to the 24 to 2026 budget. The board has developed a number of objectives for the Aurora Cultural Center's budget in the next 3 years. You will see they are related to our return to our home, bringing our audiences with us, and sorting out operational needs for us and the clients of Aurora Town Square. Before I get to the numbers, I wanted to revisit a slide you saw on September 25th. This slide shows the additional services that we plan to offer to the community upon our return to our home. These new and extended programs are paid for through the additional revenues through community participation. They are not paid for through town contributions to the Aurora Cultural Center. And here is the budget for 2024 to 2026. You will see the base amount of our Town of Aurora operating grant in the Community Partners tab 15-3 of the budget binder. We continue to have displacement costs in 2024, and the assumption is that we will be able to move into Aurora Town Square in the winter and open to the public April 1st, 2024. Should that not be possible, our displacement costs will change. Aurora Town Square services fee is a cost of infrastructure to support the new relationship between the Aurora Cultural Center and the town. This includes how we interact with the community in this new relationship. This is a net of the efficiencies that we have found in our staffing model to serve the needs of the community in their production and audience services or front of house needs. The Aurora Town Square technical funding was previously approved by council and is now being managed by the Aurora Cultural Center in this new relationship. Aurora Town Square staff recoveries are a flow through of cost recoveries for staffing the production and front of house needs for Aurora Town Square clients as part of this new relationship. It will be reconciled on each event supported. There's no overlap in these three areas as everything is reconciled based on need and use. As you know, we're a very transparent organization. The remainder of the budget is related to the Aurora Cultural Center programs being delivered to the community. While we take on this new role of supporting rental clients in the Aurora Town Square, our regular programming will continue. Lastly, this is an outline of what we know of our displacement costs at this point. We will know more as the construction winds up and we can move back into the space. We cannot wait to be home. Thank you for your attention and support. John, Michelle, and I are all here. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Suzanne. You got a motion to receive? Councillor Gilliland, Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair, to Suzanne and the gang. I just want to say thank you so much for all the work you guys do. I know you guys do so much to make sure that you can give the most that you can to the community, especially with obviously arts and the gallery and performance. You bring such a diverse portfolio of arts and culture to the community, and you truly, truly show that, especially through this presentation with your KPIs, what you're doing for growth. I love the fact that you're showing what you're planning on doing once Town Square opens and showing what those additional revenues would look like. It's exactly, I think, what we want to see happen. And I support you guys 100% because I know you guys really put all your blood, sweat, and tears in this. And any way that I know I can help, the community wants it. And I support what you guys are trying to do. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Well, I would be remiss not to say how special the Aurora Cultural Center is to me, and I'm sure to the entire town, and the value that you bring to the community. I'll just be repeating myself year after year on how proud I am of the organization and what it provides the town. Could you, through you, Mr. Mayor, just speak to the kaleidoscope in the schools just for a quick minute? I think it's important to highlight that program, and also just the kind of some background, where it is now and where it will be in the future, please.
Suzanne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, with pleasure. It's a very cherished program that we've built. It started as a pilot in 2019, and council agreed to help fund the pilot to go out to all of the elementary schools in Aurora. The program is for JK to grade 4 students. It brings professional performing arts organization, music, theater, and dance into the schools throughout Aurora, and that in that first year. With also adding on professional development for the teachers to help them to deepen the learning with their students before and after the show. And we also work with the artists to stay in the school and deliver a workshop, an intensive workshop in the school as well. When we moved away from the pilot and started to build the program even further, we were successful in getting a grant through Ontario Trillium Foundation to grow the program throughout York Region into low capacity schools. And what that means is a low capacity school could be one that has a low socioeconomic score, or who doesn't have as many teachers, or doesn't have the same administrative support, or actually doesn't get any arts activity in their school because they're either too far or the type of programming doesn't exist for them. So we went to the school boards and they identified these schools. And we, over the last couple of years, have grown out to 52 schools, including the school on Georgina Island, which is outside, of course, all of the school boards, to deliver the program in its entirety to these schools. So we're incredibly proud to offer it to all of the elementary schools in Aurora, continue that because that is our base, and grow out into York Region to these schools who would not have the capacity to have this kind of program if it wasn't for us. And we've heard that time and time again from teachers and students across the board. It's a very special program that doesn't exist in anywhere else that I'm aware of. There's a lot of programs that do one piece of it, but we've brought it all together to actually build a community within the school, a creative community for these students, an excitement and an inspiration for kids to take ownership and be empowered to build something in their school. We hear the students, a great example is when we brought in Fanasoro and he plays the djembe. That show in particular inspired the students of that school to build out a holiday show using the djembe in their school. They'd never done that before. And it was the grade 2s who took the initiative to do that and got the rest of the school involved. These are like one of many stories I could tell you, but we're really proud to be Aurora based and to be able to grow it from Aurora and bring in artists and give them opportunity to have residencies that don't exist that much over around across the country anymore for young artists' work. So super proud of the work of the team that's brought this together and our continued fundraising to support the program, because we don't charge the schools for this. It's another element. We've set a mountain ahead of us. We are Sisyphus, I think, on this one, to go to the low capacity schools where there are not as many administrators, where there's maybe socioeconomic issues, for them to then open their doors to us to bring in a show. It's huge for them to have that opportunity where they might not even have art supplies in their school. So we're very proud, and you really laid the foundation for us to be successful in this.
Counselor.
Thank you, and I'm glad I asked you to. I know you can go on and on and on about it. And that's how proud you are. I realize that, but I did want to highlight that in the program. And I know we're in budget. We're supposed to be talking about numbers, but I can't resist how important those types of programs are, because in my view, anecdotal, somewhat, I have many family members in the education system, and the arts has been literally removed from the education system. And that's why I'm highlighting this and the importance of this type of work for our children. It's incredibly important for them to be exposed to the arts at young ages. So thank you for everything you guys do.
Councilor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Haynes. Sincerely, thank you for all your work. And to Jane, who's been an integral part of the success from the beginning. Mr. DeFavre, I'd like to thank you for taking over the torch from Mr. Acker, who has joined us this evening. Thank you, Eric. And I wish a lot of wonderful further success.
Councilor Weiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Haynes. Councilor Gallo mentioned numbers, and the number that I really think is important here is your volunteer program. You are very engaged with volunteers. You have, I can't even, probably a dozen different things that people can do. And so my question to you is, what do you think for other not-for-profits and charities who struggle daily with volunteers, because they're a tremendous source of human capital, and it's very important to stay connected to our community through our volunteers? What do you think the secret is to your success?
Suzanne.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, what a big question. I would say that we struggled like our counterparts through COVID and with that engagement piece. For us, we do a lot of outreach. So we're out in conversation with long-term care facilities, senior facilities, and also youth opportunities. We have invested some human capital into this to make sure that we are out there and that people know that they can do a diversity of things. Having that diversity is also important, that it's really present, that it's managed, that it's acknowledged, that there's opportunities regularly is also really important, because people, when they get engaged, you want to keep them there. And we have the pleasure of really being a year-round institution now, where even 7 years ago we weren't. We had kind of shorter programming times. So with all of that growth, it gives us opportunity, and more opportunity is coming, because with Aurora Town Square, there's going to be regular everyday activity that people can get involved in. So it does require a little bit of management, of course, and making sure that people understand what the roles are. We have a software system that helps us manage, because we have so many people involved in so many activities. So once you get to that capacity, it's important to help people really be able to do some of that management on their own, of I can work that shift, and also make sure that there's lots of follow-up. So it's really people management and, an HR side of the company. It's our biggest HR side of our company, actually, and we like to bring them in as a team. We have tremendous ambassadors in terms of the loyal volunteers who help us to onboard volunteers as well. So a bit of a mentorship program. So a lot of different ways, I guess, of attacking it. But I would say that the last couple of years were tough because people were just really hesitant to get involved, but we're seeing this real influx of interest and excitement around it. So
thank you.
Yes, sir.
And finally, I just want to compliment you on the resilience that you've had for these last 2 years and the displacement that you had here. And it seems like you haven't skipped a beat. At least it looks that way. I know it's difficult to say that, because I know the troubles you had, but I want to compliment you and the staff and all the volunteers on keeping a positive attitude and coming through the pandemic so well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you. I don't want to echo all that has been said, but certainly, to highlight what Councilor Weiss just said, I mean, certainly, it hasn't gone without notice, the work that you, the board, all the volunteers have done over the last number of years through COVID and the displacement as well, is certainly needs to be acknowledged. I'm hopeful I mean, it's been a wonderful year in terms of all your accomplishments, but I'm certainly hopeful a year from now when you're before us. You know, I look at your objectives, and a lot of it is about reestablishing yourselves, getting back into the facility, and reaffirming, you know, all that you do through your, but also reestablishing and forging new relationships for the Aurora Town Square, and leveraging all of the knowledge and experience that the organization has to truly make it a success. So I look forward to a year from now hearing about all those accomplishments that not just the Aurora Cultural Center has achieved, but also in collaboration with the town, the library, and all the other cultural partners in town. So let's hope for a good 2024 year, and that you're in sooner rather than later. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Suzanne, thank you very much for coming, as well as everyone here from your team, volunteers, the board. You know, I'd say over the last year, all of you working with staff, as well as we've had conversations in regards to how do we move forward in a positive way, because at the end of the day, we're all a team and we're all looking for the same thing. And that's a very successful transition back into your permanent home, but as well as the bigger goal of having the town square as the focal point with the many strong organizations that are already there in that area, and providing exceptional service for our residents at most optimal price. And so we appreciate everything that you guys have done over the last year working with staff, as I said, and thank you for your continued support. And we're looking forward to some highly successful events happening in the town square, and as Councillor Thompson mentioned, hearing those successes next year during budget. So thank you very much for coming this evening. Sure, absolutely.
Just one other thing, just on Councillor Thompson's point, we actually have engaged with the University Consulting Group, which is a group that works with not-for-profits, to create an economic impact report for the Aurora Cultural Center. So you will have that understanding, as Bruce mentioned, how libraries contribute. You will know specifically how the Aurora Cultural Center contributes to the economy, and how the dollars that the taxpayers put in, how they leverage opportunities in the community. So we'll have that for you as well.
Absolutely.
Thank
Looking
you for
forward to it.
indulgence.
Thank you very much. Council, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Reese, Councilor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.